Hi everyone, welcome to Netgate Chemistry. So we are continuing with the topic of Miller indices and Weiss indices. So suppose in a question we have been given Miller indices as 100 and we want to find out the plane corresponding to these Miller indices. So what we are going to do is first we are going to find out the Weiss indices for them. So I have told you that in order to find out the Weiss indices, you have to take the reciprocal of it. So reciprocal will be 1 by 1, 1 by 0, 1 by 0. So it comes out to be 1, infinity, infinity. So these are your Weiss indices, or you can call the intercepts if you exclude A, B and C. So now I want to make the plane corresponding to it. Now if you want to locate a plane, what you have to do is look first, find out the finite values in your intercept or Weiss indices. The finite value is your 1 along x-axis. First locate that. Along x-axis 1 is this point. Okay, now along y-axis it is going infinity. From this point go along y-axis up to infinity like this. Also it is going up to infinity along z-axis. So again from this point go to infinity along z-axis. Which plane you are getting now? This plane. This plane. So this is your plane corresponding to this Miller indices 100. This way you find the plane corresponding to given Miller indices. Now suppose again one Miller indices is given 0, 1, 0. Okay, now we are going to find out the corresponding Weiss indices, which will be 1 by 0, 1 by 1, 1 by 0. So it comes out to be infinity, 1 and infinity. So find out the finite value. 1 is the finite value along y-axis. So along y-axis 1, distance 1, this is the point. Now along x-axis you have to go infinity. So along x-axis mean this axis. Along this axis you have to go infinity, and along z-axis you have to go infinity. So which plane you are getting? This one. Okay. Now suppose we have given Miller indices 101. So now Weiss indices will be reciprocal of this 1 by 1, 1 by 0, 1 by 1. That comes out to be 1, infinity and 1. Now locate the finite values. Along x-axis it is 1 here, and along z-axis it is also 1 here, and along y-axis it is going infinity. So first of all just join these finite values. Okay, join these finite values like this, and along y-axis let them go up to infinity. Okay, so this is going to be your plane. This is your plane. Okay, right, this is your plane. Next question is Miller indices are given 1, 1, 1 and 1. Now Weiss indices will also come out to be 1, 1 and 1. So locate the points along x-axis 1, along y-axis 1, along z-axis 1. Join these finite values and you'll get your plane. So this is the plane. So this way you can find out the plane if Miller indices are given. One more thing which you can write down in note, if instead of 1, 1, 1 it is given 1 bar, 1 bar and 1 bar, then that only means that the values are in negative, that is they are 1, minus 1, minus 1 and minus 1. So accordingly also you can make your planes, right? So I think this topic is clear now. Now suppose you are given two planes and you want to find out the angle between those two planes. So now we are going to study about the formula to find out angle between two planes. So the formula is cos theta is equals to h1 h2 plus k1 k2 plus L1 L2 upon root under h1 square plus k1 square plus L1 square root under h2 square plus k2 square plus L2 square. Where h1 k1 L1 and h2 k2 L2 are Miller indices of corresponding planes. Okay, so this is the formula. Next is if you want to find out the interplanar spacing between two planes. Suppose you have been given two planes like this and this, and you want to find out the interplanar spacing between them, then there is also a formula. If the plane is cubic, then the formula is 1 upon d square of HKL plane is equals to h square plus k square plus L square upon a square. If it is tetragonal, these are the formulas to find out the interplanar spacing between the given planes. So if the planes are cubic, then definitely along x, y and z axis their intercepts are going to be same. So that's why a square is here. For tetragonal, two of the intercepts are going to be same along x and y direction. That's why for h square and k square it is a square in denominator. For L square it is b square. For orthorhombic type, all the intercepts along x, y and z axis are different, so that's why we have taken a square, b square and c square here. Okay, so these are the formulas if you want to find out the angle between two planes and if you find out the interplanar spacing between two planes. Okay, now we want to understand conceptually what are these Miller indices. So for that, if you look at any Indian author's book, for example your Puri Sharma Pathania, then when you study Miller indices, they also give a technique of powder XRD. Okay, X-ray diffraction. So why Miller indices are used, that is definitely going to be explained by this technique of powder XRD. We need a little knowledge about this. Suppose here is your sample. Here is your source of X-ray and here is the detector. So now the X-ray is coming out of the source and hitting at any angle theta to this sample. So if it is going again at angle theta, suppose this is theta 1, this is also going to be theta 1, then it will be detected by this detector and we get a peak. Okay, suppose this source moves up, then corresponding detector also moves up. Suppose now this is hitting at angle theta 2. So if it is going back at theta 2 from the sample, then it will be observed by the detector at angle theta 2. Suppose now again it is hitting at angle theta 3. But now it is not going back at theta 3, so it will not be observed by the detector. So for theta 2, you will get a peak. For theta 3, you are not going to get any peak. So what happens here? These peaks which we are going to observe, these are basically the specific names given to these peaks are called Miller indices. Suppose this at angle theta 1 which has gone, okay, this is your corresponding H1, K1 and L1. For theta 2 it is H2, K2 and L2. For theta 3 it is not observed, so will not get any peak. So these specific peaks which are observed, these are your Miller indices. So understand it better. Suppose we are taking an FCC arrangement. This FCC arrangement will be having atoms present at corners, okay, and also atoms present at each face center. Okay, if you look at, okay, now we're going to name them A, B, C, D. Okay, so if I take out ABCD plane, this backward plane, then this ABCD plane will be having atoms at corners and also one at face center, like this. This is one type of plane which is giving, suppose, peak at H1, K1 and L1. So these are the Miller indices for this specific plane. So if planes like this are present, so we are going to get a peak for H1, K1 and L1. There is another type of plane present if you look closely. Now suppose I am taking this diagonal plane, this one, which is your A, F, G and H. So it will be having atoms at A, F, G, H points, and also between A and F, at the center of A and F, at the center of G and D. Sorry, this is D. At the center of G and D. So this is a different type of plane and this is a different type of plane. For this we are going to get a peak for H1, K1 and L1 like this, and for this we are going to get a peak for H2, K2 and L2 like this. So this way powder XRD method uses these Miller indices. That is why Miller indices are so important for us to understand. So what is the principle of this powder XRD? The principle of this powder XRD is your Bragg's law or the Bragg's equation, which we are going to study next. So now we are going to study about Bragg's diffraction. So suppose these are the corresponding Miller indices of the planes. So suppose X-ray is hitting here and going back here. So what Bragg's diffraction says that we all know famous formula, n lambda is equals to 2d sine theta, right? Lambda is the wavelength, d is the extra distance which is going to be traveled. So suppose this is your point A, and I'm going to make a perpendicular line from A to this line, and this point is your B, this is C. I'm making perpendicular line from here to this line, D. So suppose this angle is theta and this is also theta angle. So if you look closely, then this line, this ray is traveling extra distance of BC plus CD as compared to this line, right? So this extra distance BC plus CD, if it is equals to n lambda, then this is your constructive diffraction, and if this is your n lambda by 2, then this is destructive one. Okay, D is your distance between these two planes, small d, and theta is the angle which I have told you. N is your order of diffraction. I'm not telling Bragg's diffraction very elaborately because all of us have studied this, so that's why I hope you all have studied this. So I'm just giving you some major points related to Bragg's diffraction. So if n lambda is equals to 2d sine theta, then it is for construction, and if n lambda is equals to 4d sine theta, then it is for destructive interference. Okay, for constructive interference formula is this, for destructive interference formula is this. So this is all about your Bragg's diffraction. Okay, so I think that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching.